Great. So welcome, everyone. I'm Rebecca Tomford-Hauser. I'm the Director of Community Accountability and Engagement at the Center for Court Innovation on our Gender Family Justice team. I'm here with my colleagues, Jess and Jean. They'll introduce themselves in a moment, but we're really excited to have the first of our two-part series on values-based abusive partner intervention program facilitation. Today, we're going to be looking and focusing on self-reflection in our work with people who cause harm through intimate partner violence. Jess, I'll turn it over to you to talk to us about some logistics for the day.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica, a program associate with the Center for Court Innovation. So if you haven't done so already, we appreciate if you could just send in the chat your name, your pronouns, and your organization, and also update your display name to be reflective of that as well. And some reminders, we encourage everyone to be on camera if you are able to today, and feel free to use the chat throughout the presentation. We'll have people watching it for comments and questions. Please know that these chats are going to be readable by the host, whether they're individual or to everyone. And also, please keep your mic muted unless you are speaking. And we will also be recording this for future use and can send it out to everyone when we are done as well. And we have closed captioning is available. We have live transcript going on. So you just hit the live transcript button, you'll be able to see the subtitles as well.
Great. And Jojopah mentioned that if you are having a hard time tracking the voice of the person talking, for the majority of it, it is going to be Jojopah. So you can pin her by also clicking up in the same area where you would rename yourself, and you'll be able to see something that says pin, and then you'll be able to see Jojopah speaking throughout this presentation. So we are blessed to be funded by the Office on Violence Against Women to do this work at the Center for Court Innovation. We are an organization that through our research team that is looking at what is and isn't working in transforming lives and helping folks achieve justice. We look at our operating programs. We have programs in New York City and in upstate New York that are really looking at how can we apply some of the lessons learned and some best practices to expand justice to those who are engaged in our criminal, legal, or our family court system. And our gender and family justice team has operating programs that do a variety of things in New York City, including providing some pretrial abusive partner intervention programming, doing some family court programming, working with vulnerable parents, and working with children who have witnessed domestic violence. In addition, we have an expert assistance branch, and some folks on our gender and family justice team are part of that as well, where we provide, like we are doing now, training and technical assistance and support to jurisdictions looking to apply best practices to their work around gender-based violence. We are, as I said, funded by the Office Against Violence Against Women for this project, where we are looking at abusive partner accountability and engagement. We are providing training and technical assistance that is values driven. And so today we will be talking about one of our values of self-reflection, and Jojopah is going to give you an overview of the other values as well. But we're really looking at holistic trauma-informed responses, whether they're coming from the civil, criminal, or community. We're looking at system-wide responses that are looking at evidence-based best practices of risks, need responsivity. We're looking at sustainability and how we can collaborate with community partners to really create have these programs be part of the coordinated response. And again, we're thinking about holistic responses to women who use force, LGBTQ, gender nonconforming, people who cause harm, teens, fathering after violence program, culturally specific programming, really thinking about multiple pathways to transformation and healing for survivors and people who have caused harm through intimate partner violence. We have a wide range of partners with whom we work, and Jojopah will talk about herself, but we've been really enriched by our collaboration with the Alma Center. If you have signed up for the second webinar, you'll learn more about the Domestic Abuse Project and hear from Amrithini, who's also on this call or this training today. So with that, I'll just turn it over to Gene for a brief second to introduce himself and talk about ways you can learn more about our work, and then we'll turn it over to Jojopah.
Hi, so good afternoon. My name is Gene Johnson, and obviously I work with Rebecca and Jess and Brittany in her absence in terms of some of these national programs. And on a local level, I work with Tactics and Choices, which is with our supervised release program, part of our bail reform, and also with some colleagues regarding our local accountability program, Dignity and Respect. So if you would like to contact us, our email is there, dvaccountability@courtinnovation.org. Feel free to email us if you have any questions about this or any other concerns or issues, or if you just want to share something, we'll be happy to listen. We do have a listserv that you can join, dvcourts.org. If you subscribe to that listserv, you will be alerted to different opportunities we have, workshops, podcasts, etc. And lastly, we have a national clearinghouse, which can be reached at that web address there. National Clearinghouse may be a misnomer because there are international resources on it, as well as an assortment of other things. So there's state standards, there's our guiding principles, there's sample forms, there are things on there about offering program virtually during COVID. So I invite you all and strongly encourage you all to access it and look it over. All right, that is all for me. I will turn it over to Jojopah.
Thank you.
Great, Jojopah.
Good.
Great, you got it up on your slide.
Yes, yes. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, because I'm in Santa Monica, California, so it's still morning for me. If you're on the East Coast, I think we have people from all over the country. So East Coast, you're in the afternoon. Mountain time, you're with me. Maybe we have some international people we don't know about, right? Could be nighttime for them. Wow, it is a great pleasure to be here and to share this information with you. And I don't feel this is a training. Training is for animals. To me, this is about us taking a journey. So we're going to go on a journey over the next 2 hours or hour and 50 minutes that we have to learn something more about ourselves, or to get validated in something about ourselves, is how I think of this work. So let me tell you a little bit about who I am and why I'm here. Back in 2008, I got invited to come to the Alma Center Domestic Violence Prevention Program, or APIP program, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And the executive director, Terry Stradoff, was at a point where she was recognizing the impact of trauma on the men that they were serving, and wanted to begin to find ways to create a healing process for them. And so I had been wanting to integrate a healing modality that I had been studying and using in my personal life into a human services organization. And so in 2008, I got the opportunity to do that over a 4-year period. And we did get funding that supported the project. I was able to really not only help the men, but I was able to help the staff. And so one of the things I'm most proud of in that creative process is that one of the men who started in 2008 is now the lead facilitator, and I call him the steward of the program, which is continuing today. It's actually in the governor's budget for the state of Wisconsin. So it's my great pleasure to now be able to share some of the basics of that work I did at the Alma Center with other facilitators around the country. And Our focus today is about being that best version of yourself using the self-reflection values-based standard. So let me go to the next slide and let me see if I can do it or if I need Jessica's help. Let's see. Jessica, I think I need your help. Jump to the next slide. So this is just so you know the background on that. And this is my overview for today. We're at that preface. I'm a writer too, so I think in literary terms. Chapter 1, we're going to talk about self-mastery, which I consider the reward of self-reflection. Then I'm going to share with you that ancient technology that I use for what's called the Wisdom Walk to Self-Mastery program. And then we'll do a little wrap up. Great. Next slide, please. So here are the value-based standards for abusive partner intervention programs that are now being rolled out so beautifully to all of you. And I think they give us some wonderful context and some wonderful aspiration, if you will, in terms of this essential work that we're all involved in. So survivor voices centered, accountability is personal, communal, and systemic, hope and dignity restored, culture and community are reflected and valued, strategies are responsive to needs and strength. That's that beautiful strength-based approach. And racial justice is centered, which Amathene is going to be sharing with you soon. And then self-reflection is prioritized. Great. Next slide. In this process for self-reflection, the focus, just some more wonderful information for you in regards to, you know, a more fuller understanding about why it's prioritized. So facilitating a healing, growth, and accountability process for others is only possible as an extension of the facilitator's exploration to those factors in their own lives. What does that mean? That means that we are the work, that when you step through the door into wherever you're working or turn on the Zoom, you're still who you were when you woke up in the morning. You know, that separation really doesn't exist except in our brain. But we really are at a place in our culture and humanity where we can begin to stop thinking that we have to live a bifurcated lifestyle and that we really can begin to bring all of who we are in a process where we share our gifts, our talents, and our genius. Everyone is impacted by systems of oppression, white supremacy, heteropatriarchy, settler colonialism, ableism, classism, as well as their own personal experiences of trauma. And everyone can cause harm. And I'll be talking in a minute about the pain body. These factors prevent one's capacity to present for others in ways that promote healing. Yes, yes, yes. And, you know, there's somebody here from Jersey City, works at the Department of Health and Human Services. And when I first got out of college back in the 70s, hey, Paul, I had the privilege of being hired by Mr. Robert Veal, who was the first Black man to administer Health and Human Services. And at that time, everything was under it. You had the health department, you had the welfare department, you had children's lunch programs. You know, I mean, it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. But wow, you know, how far we've come since that time in terms of our understanding about what is really required to implement human services. So shout out to you, Paul. You know, yeah, I've got some good roots back in Jersey City. Facilitators, agency leadership, and system stakeholders must engage in ongoing self-reflection to understand and acknowledge their privilege and power, actively work to dismantle systems of oppression, and take accountability for harm caused in their own lives and within their fields of practice. You know, bias is so unconscious, and that's why racism and different forms of ism are so insidious in our culture, in the world. And so what this is about is us taking on a willingness, just a willingness to begin to learn and uncover how it is that we may be subjecting ourselves and others to those hidden biases. And we can't get to that if we're not willing to accept that all of us, I don't care what color you are, what height you are, what age you are, you have been conditioned in one form or another to have some bias. And last but not least, this breaks down the us versus them dichotomy. Yes, yes, yes. That separates anti-IPV professionals from participants and provides a model of self-reflection and accountability for participants and the broader community. And, you know, sometimes I think this one can get a little confused because it seems to, oh, there's no boundaries. No, that's not true. There is a very important boundary, which is that as a professional supporting people going through change in their life, I have a one-upmanship because I have a ability and authority over. They could go back to jail, or they could get, you know, put into a position that may not be just. So it's not about loss of a boundary, but it is the raising our consciousness about humanity, and there, but for the grace of God, go I. So any questions before we shift on about self-reflection is prioritized? Okay, great. And again, you can welcome to put stuff into the chat and it will get brought to my attention because I can't see everybody on the screen, unfortunately. So for today, these are the learning objectives that we pulled together. By the end of this training, you should be able to describe that guiding principle and why self-reflection and commitment to growth are essential components of facilitator development. Have evaluate your personal motivations for choices made as an APIP facilitator. And last but not least, incorporate strategies to review and create practices, policies, and alliances that promote healing, growth, and accountability. Shay. So now the fun part. I invite you to sit back in your chair because we're going to set our intention after we take in 3 long, slow, deep breaths to just clear ourselves out, get ourselves grounded. And so I invite you to take in a deep breath. And when you feel your lungs full, take a sniff up and a blow out. And do that 3 times. Long, slow, deep breath in, sniff up, and blow out. And when you've completed the 3 grounding breaths, I'd like you to set your intention for this learning journey today. What is it that you would like to take away from our time together? And now I want you to take that intention and do this mudra, we call it. Just place it in your heart. Let that sit in your heart, yeah. Next slide, please. So most people, especially professionals, know or have heard about Eckhart Tolle because of his book, The Power of Now. But if you haven't, he's a new thought philosopher, inspirator, motivator, and his seminal work is called A New Earth. And in this book, he does something so brilliant, so wonderful. I think this came out in 2005, where he gives some language to what has happened inside all of us that we've been very unconscious of, because it starts out when we're children. And that is that we get triggered, we get traumatized, we get surprised, or we experience some overwhelming fear that doesn't get processed, doesn't get processed. And without it being processed, what the neuroscientists have discovered is that this stuff gets tucked away inside of us. And at some point, it will come out. At some point, it's actually the very thing that is how you are seeing the world around you, how are you interacting with the world around you. And the language that Eckhart Tolle gives to this is called the pain body. It says any pain, unprocessed, unhealed, actually takes on a body for us. And as it says here, the pain body wants to survive just like every other entity in existence. And it can only survive if it gets you to unconsciously identify with it. Yeah. And what the pain body does is it transfers pain. It transfers pain because it doesn't understand that pain can be transformed. And this notion of a pain body is one of the initial concepts that I introduced the men to that I worked with in the program. I wanted them to have a way to better understand their dysregulated behavior. And as it says here, you know, yeah, it's got you if you identify with it. And so this languaging becomes a way for us to separate out the pain that we enact on versus the truth of who we really are. Yeah. And when we understand that any pain not transformed will be transferred, like that's a guarantee, then this can call us into a willingness to want to uncover that hidden, unconscious, but very powerful and active pain inside of us that has not been addressed. And of course, I'm talking about emotional pain. Next slide, please. So self-reflection is a practical tool that we can use, but I wanted to make sure we had the larger context for why we will do this. And that larger context is about self-mastery. Yeah. Self-mastery is exactly what it says. It's mastering yourself in I'll call it new thought business literature, like by a man called Peter Senge or Otto Schrammer. When they talk about it, they call it personal mastery as one of the 5 disciplines that you need to be doing to really be successful in an organization and in organizational development. And of course, self-mastery does come from ancient wisdom about the importance of knowing the self and mastering the self. And so to me, self-mastery is the way in which we want to be able to show up to those that we're working with, to our community, and to model that so others can learn and can know that that's real. As it says here, truth is available only to those who have the courage to question whatever they have been taught. Yeah, it's a process. And, you know, the slap that was seen and heard around the world by Will Smith to Chris Rock is a great, great demonstration of the pain body allowed to go into action, because that was totally dysregulated behavior on Will Smith's part. And he is reaping the consequences of that. But it says that it doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how much fame you have. It doesn't matter what your wardrobe is like. It doesn't matter how many houses you own. None of that material success or wealth matters to the pain body. If it's allowed to take over, it will. And in ways that you definitely would not want it to have to do. But through this practice of self-reflection to work on our self-mastery, that's how we have a better chance of not putting ourselves into situations that will really cause us a lot of mess to clean up later on. Yeah. Next slide. So in teaching about self-mastery, I like to use film. I'm an avid film buff, especially classic film. So I live in Hollywood, near Hollywood, right? But the film that I use that I think is pretty universal, most people have seen it or know about it, is Groundhog Day. And if you haven't seen it, it's a practice I do every February the 2nd. I always make sure I take time to watch Groundhog Day. It is about a man who wakes up on Groundhog Day over and over and over again. And essentially, it's a film about the hero's journey, how someone who starts off being highly narcissistic, pain body, transferring pain to everybody and everything around him, how he goes on a journey to learn how to transform his pain and become someone who is respected and supported in his community. So I want to just run you through quickly what I mean by self-mastery, what it is and what it isn't. So any behavior that is fear-centered and unloving to yourself and others is not self-mastery. Next slide. We can call things that are evidence that we have not mastered ourselves in these terms. Codependency. I'm in a victim consciousness. I'm going to take revenge. I'm transferring my pain. How do I know that? Because people go like this when I come around. Staying stuck in the past, manipulation, even if it's for a good reason, and control dramas. When we're doing these kinds of behaviors or thinking these kinds of thoughts, yeah, we ain't in self-mastery. But the good news is they give us a direction we need to go in to master ourselves. Next slide. So again, just some more languaging out on what self-mastery is not. And I would like to have us go into some breakout at this point. And for 10 minutes, I'd like to give you a chance to connect with each other. It's the great thing about breakout. But I would like you to do a little bit of contemplation about your pain body. How aware are you of your pain body? How aware are you of some of these behaviors here that I've listed down? And so to think about that and to share that in a small group, I think we're doing groups of 3, or are we doing 2? We could do 2. Yeah, whatever's easiest for you all, great. It's going to be 3. And yeah, and so we're going to give you a good 10 minutes to just share out about, you know, where am I at in regards to my self-mastery? What am I aware of in terms of my pain body? Yeah. And we'll give you a halfway signal at 5 minutes to make sure everybody gets a chance to share. And when we come back to the full group, important for you to know, I don't want to hear the details about what you're going to be discussing. Okay, so what happens in the group stays in the group. But we're going to just talk about the experience of that, of having that conversation. Okay. Any other questions before we send you off? I see something in the chat. Let me double check to make sure. Okay, that was a 3, yeah. Yeah, and we can send those not self-mastery behaviors into a chat if you need to refer back. Yeah. Okay. So I would just like to hear from a couple of people. How did it feel to share that information or to be in that conversation? How did it feel?
Well, I can share that it was, for myself, it was really good to have a conversation about it and to think about things in a different way than I normally think about things. It helped me look at the people I work with through a different lens.
Shay, thank you, thank you. Someone else, how did it feel? We have Lisa in a chat saying, felt empowering and supportive. 3 nice women doing all different avenues of working DV. Shay, thank you, Lisa. And from Teresa, says, a little uncomfortable, feeling pretty far behind in self-mastery, but it was pointed out that self-mastery isn't linear. Yes, yes. So beautiful. Casey Chiasen said it was a good conversation that helped me feel that I am not alone with some thoughts and ideas. Sadie Cunningham, vulnerable. Bingo, exactly, exactly. Jeannie Marsh, a little vulnerable. Yes. And you can continue to put into the chat. Somebody said humbling too. And it's really, really important for us to realize that that's what we're asking of the people we're working with when they are coming to us and having to tell their story, you know, having to self-reflect about what's going on in their lives. So it's really important for all of us to also know, as you have remarked too, that we're not alone. We're not alone. I can tell you, I have been consciously working on myself to master myself for at least 25 years. And I'm not done. And things show up that let me know very clearly, no, honey, you ain't done yet. You're further along than you were 25 years ago, but you ain't done. And why not? Because we're human. And this is what it means to be a human. Has anyone ever done? No, no. I live with a nonagenarian. She died at 96, and she was doing her work in her last breaths. I got to be with her when she was dying. So yeah, as long as we're alive and being breathed, we have this type of work to do. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I have to read this one from Heather. Just says, sometimes we're looking for, sometimes talked about how we look for evidence and sometimes find there is no evidence for what we call ourselves. And so can then let go of those beliefs, really thinking about this process our group participants are asked to employ, and how often do I consciously do that? Ashe, ashe. Next slide, please. So now let's look at what self-mastery is. Woohoo! Any behavior that is loving to yourself. Notice yourself comes first. I can't emphasize this enough. I had another lesson in this in the month of April, how I have got to love myself first. I've got to put my oxygen mask on first. And for those of us who, you know, are human service professionals, and like me, I've been doing it since I was 22 years old, probably earlier than that. You know, it's this whole thing of, you know, I'm not supposed to put myself first. Let me take care of somebody else. Let me do somebody else. You know, let me figure somebody else's problems out. But no, we have to love ourselves first. That's self-mastery. That's self-mastery. And out of loving ourselves is how we can extend that to others. Yeah. Next slide. So here are some of the behaviors that we see. Interdependency, which you can't get to unless you know codependency and you've experienced your independency, and then you can get to interdependency. And that is that beautiful sharing of the love, not expecting somebody to love you in order for you to love yourself, but actually loving yourself enough that you can share it with someone else and receive it from someone else, right? Victor consciousness. Yeah, the world is not out to get me. The world is out to gift me. And everything that shows up in my life is for a reason, has purpose. One of the things I say, somebody said they're going to get a doll where you pull the string to get these Jojopah sayings, because I always say there is treasure in the trouble. There's treasure in the trauma. And this gets us into our victim consciousness. Trust and faith, what can I say? Being present, open to learning, having reverence for life. Yeah, which means I'm not disposable and nobody else is disposable. There are no disposable people. Having that reverence. Practicing forgiveness and vulnerability as a practice, as a daily practice. And last but not least, transforming pain. Yes, 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 yes. And again, in the movie, which is so powerful, we get to experience the lead character, Phil, you know, giving evidence of all of these behaviors, all of these behaviors. Next slide, which just writes it out a little more for you. And what that is, yeah. Victor consciousness, taking on your own pain, the ability to respond to negativity from others with introspection, self-reflection, right? Contemplation, acceptance of your pain body, and compassion for yourself and others. And again, that's that whole piece of I'm not in this alone. You know, I'm not the only one, and I'm human. You know, I'm going to transfer my pain. That's something that's going to happen. But I can have a willingness, again, I go back to just a willingness to learn how to transform it so that that doesn't happen. Yeah. And practicing forgiveness, yes, is letting go of wishing for a different past and releasing yourself from carrying someone else's pain. Letting yourself off the hook for identifying with your pain or the pain of others. So it's not about let's gloss over like this never happened. No, but it is definitely, I'm not going to carry that pain. That's definitely back to the slap heard around the world. What Chris Rock was able to do. Chris Rock was really demonstrating the level of self-mastery that he has on himself. Because, you know, otherwise it would have been a free-for-all up on that stage. There would have been blood. There would have been blood. But Chris was in a space where he was like, ooh, I am not going to take this on. So he doesn't go into reaction. He goes into a joke and keeps moving on, keeps doing the show. I'm sure afterwards, because he's human, you know, he had some stuff, but he hasn't made that public. He hasn't, you know, used it to, you know, make Will feel even worse than what he probably is feeling. So it was a real sign of the instant of forgiveness, how instantly the energetic of forgiveness can show up if we have that self-mastery consciousness and that willingness for that. Yeah, really powerful. Next slide. So you've heard me talking about the need to transform our pain. And there are many, 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 many modalities for doing that. But I'm going to share with you one that I use, one that I find very helpful, and it is one that I use with the men. The men that I work with were predominantly Black men in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, but there was always men who were non-Black. They were either white, they were Native American, they were Latino, but this level of consciousness, I'll call it, was something that all of them could identify with. And so it's this medicine wheel that comes from the Dagara people of Burkina Faso, West Africa. Burkina Faso is a very small, very poor country, sits right on top of Ghana and right below or next to Mali. It is definitely my ancestors' home because at one point the Dagara people were all over what was called the Gold Coast of Africa. But as the slave trade came, they moved in from the shore and more into the interior because, you know, again, tribal Africa didn't have no states or countries. It was, you know, it was your land area where your tribe was. So you also find the Dagara culture in the Ivory Coast, Senegal, Ghana, you know, you'll find it there. But Burkina Faso is specifically where my teachings and learnings come from. And so basically this ancient wisdom was what we call a cosmology, and this wheel tells us that we are here for a purpose, and that purpose is designed for us to all live and be in harmony. And in order for that to happen, there isn't a hierarchy. It's about difference that matters. And so you see on this wheel, these elements of fire, water, earth, mineral, and nature. And it's believed that every person is born through one of these elements. And your elemental essence is the foundation for the truth of who you are. So that whatever you may do in life, whatever your gifts, your talents, and your genius are, they're sitting on a foundation of who you uniquely are. And as we can see, fire isn't better than water, it's different. And when you bring fire and water together, and this is an ancient belief, but it's also what the planetary physicists and theoretical physicists talk about, it's that coming together of the fire and water that created the earth. And so here's the purpose of these elements, right? They're coming together to create something, to evolve something. If you put the water, the fire, and the earth together, you're going to get mineral. And the stones are considered to be the children of the earth. They're the ones that are keepers of the story. And that's a very particular foundational belief about people who are born through the mineral element, that they're keepers of the knowledge. Like my sister, who remembers everybody's birthday in the family, who died, what was that happened 10 years ago. I just call her up, Cheryl, whose birthday is it this week? Oh yeah, it's this one's that one. And she does that. And she had an aneurysm, so her brain shouldn't even be functioning the way everybody else is done, but she knows all them birthdays and stuff. And then when you bring together the fire, the water, the earth, and the mineral, you get nature. And nature is considered to be the evolutionary energy that we find in plants, animals, and humans. And so this beautiful cosmology, this beautiful mythology, even cultural anthropology, it's also called, is designed to help us remember that we are here to grow, to heal, to evolve, and to work together, to be together. And the wheel with its 5 elements also is a message about harmony, peace, cooperation, collaboration. And it also tells us that by taking on our self-mastery, which is also about knowing our foundational essence, that I don't have to compare myself to somebody else because I am unique. And it's important that I'm unique. And even though I may be a facilitator like somebody else, my way of facilitating is going to be unique to me because I'm the only Jojopah there is. Sorry. And it's funny when we think about that, but it really is the truth. Nobody else is like you. You are unique, you are individual. And so I love using this medicine wheel because not only does it help us to understand kind of this philosophical understanding of why we need to be a community of humans on the planet, why we need each other, how important we are, but it also gives us information that helps us self-reflect and self-master. So I would like you, if you would like, to take out a piece of paper, something you can write on, something you can draw on, because I'm going to take you through some contemplative questions from the medicine wheel teachings. And after we've gone through that, we're going to go back into another breakout situation. And we learned that the live transcripting does not work in breakout room. So for those of you that need that, we're going to let you stay in the main room. And what we'll do is we'll cut off our mics and off our video so that we give you some privacy. Okay. So next slide. Fire element is associated with forgiveness and truth. And it's this practice, I'll call it. And you wouldn't think that truth has to be practiced, but just ask the owner of Facebook, the new owner of Twitter. I go on and on and on. Yeah, to master ourselves, we have to practice truth. We have to practice being in truth, telling truth. We have to practice forgiveness, which is letting go of taking on other people's pain, including our own pain from the past. Just listen to this neuroscientist that was saying our brains are lazy and they will continue to operate out of what got imprinted on us within those first 5 years of our life. And that's a big, important thing to know about self-mastery, that what we're doing is we're growing ourselves out of these imprinted belief systems from the past. So next slide will give us what it looks like when fire is out of control. And so here's the first contemplated question for you. What are you angry about? What are you angry about right now? And for whom and why are you holding resentment? So take a moment to jot down some response to that. What are you angry about? Next slide. The water element supports us in peacemaking and in our emotional intelligence. It is about that flow that exists within us in the form of our bloodstreams and other fluid streams that are essential for us to be here in these human bodies. And this element of peacemaking and emotional intelligence, so important for us to practice, to self-master ourselves, to do the work that we do in regards to domestic violence. Because that's ultimately what we're, wanting, right? For the persons that we're working with. We want to see them be able to know how to make peace rather than war in relationship, how to make peace. And so that water element is a reminder for us about this truth, that peacemaking and emotional intelligence, being able to have consciousness of what we're feeling, to not be afraid to embody it so that we can release it, we can transform it. Yeah, emotional intelligence is really very important. And so in the next slide, here's our contemplative question. And this is what disrupts our peace. What are you regretting? And what are you anxious about? What are you regretting? What are you anxious about? Stormy seas. Thank you, Amelia. I do too. Okay, next slide. Valuing of self and others. Reverence for life at home and in the world. Yes, yes, yes. The earth element. It is believed by indigenous culture that we really do come from this combination of the earth having received us from the stars and the earth being our birthing place. This is where we get nurtured and held and supported. And again, in the Dagara tribe, there's no hierarchies, right? But the earth elders are considered so essential because they have a connection to the earth. And in that tradition of the Dagara, the spirits of the earth are called Tingang and Tingbalo. They're considered the landlord and landlady of the earth. And to the point that if somebody gets sick in the village, it doesn't get ignored. Everybody participates in how to tend to that person. They also go and do some ritual work because they understand sickness as a message from the earth spirits that something is out of balance. Just imagine if we could use that consciousness around COVID and not just react to this as, you know, this shouldn't be happening and I shouldn't have to wear a mask and when is it going to be over, but to actually appreciate it as a message from Mother Earth that something is out of balance. Like we're not valuing ourselves, we're not valuing others, that profit over people stuff that's gone on, that we're not having a reverence for our home, you know, cutting down the Amazon as if that's the only way that people can be supported in their economic and financial fitness. You know, not viewing the world as our home. Let's go to Mars. We don't need to be here. Let's go to Mars. By the way, nobody can be on Mars. Let's be humans the way we exist right now. You can't be on Mars. Do the sign. Read about the science of it. It's impossible for anybody to be on Mars. But again, it's very interesting, you know, that this kind of consciousness that is held in this mythology about the earth for self-mastery gives us this awareness that, yeah, I need to be here. I need to want to be here because I have purpose and I need to value myself and I need to value others. I need to let go of this discriminating and this disposing and this judging. But what if everyone who shows up in front of me that I'm curious about, what is your purpose? Why are you here? I know what you did to be in front of me, but is that really who you are? Are you that behavior? Are you the person who's got the solution to cancer? Like, why are you here? Yeah. That's what that earth element helps us with, is really staying conscious about the importance of valuing ourselves and others and what that really means. You know, I learn every day how I'm not valuing myself, and I learn every day how I am valuing myself. Very important consciousness. So on the next slide, let's see what our contemplative question is. To whom and what are you giving your power away? And where in your life are you experiencing unworthiness? Yes. Who are you giving your power away? Yes. How is unworthiness showing up? Like I said, you know, I look at every day, okay, how I'm not valuing myself. So I have hypertension, and when I take my blood pressure and my numbers are running high, and I hesitate to take another half of blood pressure medication, God only knows why. But there are times when I do, I'm like, do I really have to take that pill? You know, it's like, okay, do you want to be here? You need to take the pill. Let's stop being upset that you have hypertension. You are a Black woman in America. Let's get over it. Yeah. So those are some of the ways it can show up very subtly, but that's just me not valuing myself. And I'm questioning. I need to take a half a pill. Take the pill, girl. Take the pill. Thank you, Bonnie. As I said, I brought this wisdom to a human services program because it had so helped me in my challenges of having my pain body run my life, and bringing me lots of unhappy endings. And it has really transformed my experience of myself and my life in ways I couldn't have imagined. Next slide, please. It's one of my favorites. Remembering higher purpose, living in clarity and commitment. Yes, yes, yes. This is the mineral kingdom. The Dagara believe that everyone is born full. In our Western culture approach to education, we actually condition children to believe that they don't know. And isn't that the worst situation you could be in school, in class, right? Teacher calls on you and you don't know. Oh my God, the end of the world. They used to put people in a corner with a dunce hat on. You were stupid if you didn't know, right? So we come from that kind of a conditioning and a culture. And so we always gotta know, I gotta know, I gotta know. But what's interesting is what we happen to know is not our purpose. We don't take enough time to really support children in remembering their purpose, remembering why they really are here. So you can have a very successful career like I did. I was very successful in what I was doing and not feel fulfilled. Like there was something more I needed to do. I didn't know what it was, but I knew there had to be something more. So we can be very proficient in certain skills or ways of doing things that may not be all of who we are, or maybe in the opposite direction of who we are. Yeah. And so to understand that you remembering your higher purpose and living in that clarity and commitment is essential, essential for harmony, community, trust, collaboration, cooperation. Yeah. That's what these things flow out of, those situations, those experiences is out of this. So I love this one a lot. It really, really helps because it doesn't mean I have to stop doing what I can do well. It just means I need to put it into its proper place, put it into perspective, and not feel chained to a situation, a relationship, even a job that I'm not being fulfilled in. And this to me gives us a hint as to why that can be going on. So let's have our next slide with our contemplative question. From the mountains to the desert. What are you confused or unclear about regarding your experience of life? So delicious. So delicious. What are you confused or unclear about regarding your experience of life as you're in that desert? Although I love the desert because I'm a fire person, if you haven't guessed already. And I love the desert. But there's not a lot of generative stuff out in the desert. So you can tap down in it, but you need to get yourself back up to where there's something green growing, some generative generosity going on. Confused and unclear. Yeah. And then, last but not least, move into our next slide, which is the element of nature. It's all about accepting and welcoming change and growth. Something that's hard for all of us to do, definitely. We like our security, we like being set in our ways. But I think about the people of Ukraine and how in a flash overnight, their whole world has been turned upside down. Their whole existence has been turned upside down. And the only way you really get through something like that is there has to be something in you that opens yourself up to the change. And so this is a part of self-mastery that I believe really fuels our ability to be resilient in life, to receive the more of what it is that we require, desire, the more of what's in alignment with that truth of who we are in our higher power, in our higher understanding of who we are. Thank you, Jean. Everyone wants to change. No one wants to change. Exactly. You mean I got to do this? Oh my God. Exactly. And like nature, no problem, Amelia. Like nature, you know, it teaches us about the fact that change is always happening. It is nothing that we can stop, you know. The seasonal change that happens, or the birth of someone, or the death of someone. How the fires here in California, right up the street from me on the 405, really burnt out a whole section of these hills. And 2 years later, when I drive by, I see these little green buds coming back on the trees, you know. It's phenomenal, but such a powerful message about the fact that there is an energy uncontrollable to us as humans that is always shifting things, from something growing, something being born, something dying, something being reborn. You know, it's this endless cycle. And that's what life is. That's what life is. And unfortunately, you know, in our culture, we have such a fear of death, such a fear of aging. If I see one more commercial about women and wrinkles as it's a problem, I'm just gonna really scream. But there's this, you shouldn't age, you shouldn't experience the fullness of life. And that's not okay. That's not okay, because we're here to change, to grow, to evolve. And we can choose in our self-mastery to accept that and to really get the treasure in it. Get the treasure in it. When the men would sit down with me for the first time in this circle to do the wisdom walk, I would say to them, I want you to take a look around at everybody here, look at their faces. And this was a 12-week, 3 times a week program. It was very intensive. Say, take a look at everybody's face. Just take a moment. I want you to look at each other. Because at the end of this program, you're all gonna look different. And so am I. So we would start off with this promise of, we're going to heal, we're going to grow, we're going to change. Some of them were very, very radical, like extremely radical. One guy showed up and they were like, who is that? It's like, oh, that's Bill. What happened? Oh, he cut his hair. He's wearing a different outfit. You know, like he's just like totally demonstrated his transformation. Really, really fun stuff when that happens. So let's see what our contemplated question is for this. So cool. What change are you most afraid of in your life right now? Oh, oh, oh. You know, it's like that haunted house scenario, right? God, I don't want to go there. Don't make me go into it. If there's anybody out here who's a fan of the MCU like I am, I heard that the new Doctor Strange is like a horror movie. Do not take children to Doctor Strange until after you've seen it, because they will need to process. I heard it is deep. So I can't wait to see it. But it's this kind of thing. What are we afraid of? What is the change we're afraid of? So we are going to move into breakout again. And Erica, I think this time, let's do, yeah, let's make it 12 minutes. give people a little bit of time, because if this were, you know, a longer bit of time, I would have given you a break after this. So when you do get check into your breakout, if you need a bio break or just to take care of yourself, stretch, drink some water, put some eye drops in, take a moment to do that before you start your conversation. And your conversation that I'm suggesting is, what is a focus of self-mastery that you are going to take on as a result of going through those contemplative questions? What's your focus for self-mastery? Okay. And as before, when you come back, I'm just going to ask you about, you know, how did this conversation feel to you? How did it benefit you or not? But, you know, we won't talk details, so you can be vulnerable in your small groups. Wonderful. So we'll give you a good 12 minutes, and thank you, Gail Bartley, much appreciated. And we'll be having some ongoing opportunity for you to come back into the conversation over the next several weeks. Yeah. Shay.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open the rooms.
Please. We could just let's just jump to the next slide as we process the experience. We can just leave that up. And in fact, maybe take us out of the slide for a minute so we can be in the full gallery. That would be nice for a minute. Nice to see people's faces. Yes, yes, yes. So again, as before, please, a couple of people share. Again, you're welcome to put stuff in chat, but how did you feel having that conversation? Did you find it beneficial? Give some feedback.
For me, it definitely felt beneficial. To the thing I heard people saying in earlier, with like it gave that feeling of like connectedness, and I'm not alone in this feeling. That was something that came up for me in this group as well. The conversation around just like the thing that we're working on is like, hey, wait, I needed to work on that like today. Like that actually came up with me like a little earlier. So I like, it was really helpful for me. I appreciated the group that I was in.
Thank you, Altabar. Ashe. Someone else, how did it feel having that conversation?
I actually had Matt in the group, right? And it was helpful. First I got on and I was like, great, I don't really know what I'm going to say with these questions, right? But then I kind of said, okay, this is something, not a typical conversation that people would have, right? Whether it's over the dinner table or just hanging out with your friends or with your coworkers, because you have to build that trust first, right? But being able to express with Matt, we both read the questions out loud, the ones we selected. And it was interesting how I was like, I don't know, I don't really know what to answer to that. It's like two questions together. Can we help each other out? Right. One of the things I target was afraid of, what am I most afraid of right now? And I said change, right? And not change like I'm afraid of change, but more like leaving my foundation behind, right? If I relocate and having to start over. Not that I'm scared of change, but just starting over. And Matt was kind of connecting the dots and saying, you know, I understand, right? And that made me comfortable with him, right? So the experience was definitely that you're able to open up to strangers, right? And they're being open-minded to what you're saying without judgment.
Shay, thank you, thank you, thank you. And you know,
and by the way, it says Emmanuel, but I'm Carmen.
Hi, Carmen. Thank you for your feedback. Yeah. You know, part of this is about the art of holding space, which is something I am modeling for you. You know, again, everything is done very consciously, because when I can show up with a consciousness of self-mastery that is love-centered, right? That is all of those lovely, beautiful, supportive behaviors and thoughts and beliefs, right away an energetic goes out, because we're energetic beings. Einstein talked about this over 100 years ago. We're finally really starting putting in practice. But my energy would have an impact on you. So if I showed up, right, not self-mastered, in some kind of fear, it would be impossible for you to go into a breakout and have any kind of conversation with somebody else. But I'm operating out of what? I'm operating on an expectation that as human beings, we need this level of support. And if we're all in this together, taking on domestic violence, right? What do we have in common? We know the pain of it. We know what it's like to sit with people and hear their pain. We know what it's like when they're angry or they're telling their story for the 10th time, being a victim, trying to prove that it wasn't their fault, right? We have a common experience and understanding, and those values, those standards, right? We're agreeing to that. So I have that expectation that, of course, you're going to connect with each other. Of course, you're going to go deep. Of course, you're going to allow your vulnerability to be a gateway to discovering something more about yourself. Yeah. That's the art of holding space. And again, it all comes from our individual ability to have a willingness, again, just back to a willingness to master ourselves. I got 3 chats here. Let me just see what we got. We have want and need more, reflective. I dig it, certainly removes any temptation of holier than thou thinking, identifying and focusing on your vulnerabilities, finding what beast you want to tackle. It was refreshing. And that was from Brent Hatley, Paul Bellenboyer, my colleague from Jersey City, want and need more. And Charles Oritz said reflective. Yes. So we're going to pause here and begin our closing out. So please, Jessica, show again our slide of the values. Let's just take another look at that. And again, we've been focusing on self-reflection as a priority. This is something we need to teach our funders more about, the importance of this, that it needs to be inserted into our professional development. And all of these values also have associated with them, practices, procedures, policies, and ways in which we can really evolve the work that we do and how we do it. So again, we wanted to just make sure that we, again, just put a focus on that and remind you that you have these to refer to and to support you in your decision-making, in your practicing, in your self-mastery. Because to me, these are all kind of disciplines. I would call these disciplines that we use to make sure that we are doing the best job that we can do, that we're being the best version of ourselves as we do this work. That's my commercial for the standards. Love it. Next slide. So take a moment and just ask yourself, was your intention that you held in your heart for today, was that realized? And if it was, why was it? Think about that. And if it wasn't, why wasn't it? Or if during the process a new intention showed up. That's always possible. And so once again, let's take a slow, long, deep breath in. Sniff and out. So you all did some really deep work. like really, really deep, like on a dime, you know, and you did it. Like, wow, wow. Give yourselves a hand. It's really powerful. I want to leave you with a couple of things. First, there's some resources that I think might be helpful to you in your continued self-mastery, self-reflection work. First is my book. It's called The Wisdom Walk to Self-Mastery, Ancient Wisdom for Transforming Pain, available at Amazon, Kindle, and other places online. I wrote it so that the men would have something in hand to take away with them after they did the program. And in the writing of it, which took about 10 years, I came to learn that it could also be of benefit to professionals or just anyone that is looking for some support for doing that self-mastery work. And in that book, I go into more depth about the medicine wheel. And this year, before the end of this year too, I'm going to be offering a course about the medicine wheel and how you can take and use that to really support yourself just in your daily life. The 4 agreements, really powerful, wonderful stuff. Love the Ruizes. Their information also comes from Ancient Wisdom. It's a Toltec wisdom, but very wonderful, similar guides for us to make sure that we are not transferring our pain, but that we are learning to transform it. And there's that Eckhart Tolle book that will give you in chapter 5 the overview of the pain body, what it is, some great examples. He also talks about how 2 pain bodies come together in relationship, which is a lot of time the foundation for domestic violence. And people don't even realize that they've come together and they're transferring their pain onto each other. But really great book. All these books really easy to find. Next slide is couple of more books that I just love and found very, very helpful to me in my process. Gary Zukov, The Seed of the Soul. It is just so wonderful in its ability to give us some new languaging and a new understanding about who we are now and where we're at now in terms of our growth and our evolution as human beings. And he gets into things about partnership, and he gets into things about addiction, but he starts off with this wonderful concept about reverence for life, which is another reason I love this book so much. The next one is Ken Wilber. Ken Wilber is a New Thought philosopher, guru, who in this book, A Brief History of Everything, actually lays out a model for human evolution that incorporates philosophy, religion, psychology, spirituality. Yeah, the guy's a little bit of a genius. But what's so cool is, though, the way he writes this book, he makes a lot of fun of himself. Like he doesn't take everything so seriously, although he's writing about this really, serious kind of a tough topic. I find it enjoyable because of his great sense of humor that he has in it. But he also has a lot of stuff online too. There's videos of him, but he's brings to us again a way to understand that we're here to evolve, but include. So again, I love his message about, just because somebody's not at the same level of self-mastery as you are, doesn't mean there's something wrong with them, because you're going to always have people being in different places, again, back to difference, in this journey of evolution. And remember, once that was you. And let go of the judgment, let go of the hate, and just stay focused on you in your lane. Good stuff. Next slide, please. Movies. Like I said, I'm a movie buff. These are some movies that I really like that I think do a good job of just reminding us about the importance of self-mastery. So of course, Groundhog Day. Antoine Fisher, really, really great because of its use of the connection to the ancestors. It's Denzel Washington's first directorial debut, or it's his directorial debut, the first film he directs. And he opens up with this incredible vision of the existence of the ancestors and their impact on our lives. And then it's this great story. It's based on a true story about someone, you know, went through a horrible childhood, but ends up learning how to grow, heal, and transform his pain. Also, it's one of the best performances by an actress, Viola Davis, when she's just coming out. She should have gotten a special Academy Award for that performance. The Shack, what a surprise. Really well done. I had read the book, but I really, really appreciate how they did the movie. And it is a story about how to forgive the unforgivable, if you haven't seen it. And it also has a neat ancestor tie-in piece about intergenerational trauma, the impact of that, which is, I think, a really important thing in our self-mastery work. And then last but not least, the book that I first got introduced to back in 1994, The Celestine Prophecy, which brings up these wonderful insights about the fact that we are energetic beings and how our energy impacts everybody and everything around us, as well as this notion of, you know, this new thought, these new understandings that we're here to learn. It's by James Redman, who was a psychotherapist. And the other great thing he introduces is about control dramas and how they show up. And again, the movie's done very well. I really appreciated it. So those are some resources for you. Yes. Nice. She says, yes, Charles Orrit said, yes, it was. Further develop my thoughts and insights of epigenetics. Yes, 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 absolutely. And the next slide is just ways in which you can get hold of me. I do a radio broadcast. I broadcast live twice a month on a platform called Blog Talk, Black Hole Radio, but it's part of Blog Talk Radio. Is that it? Blog Talk? Yeah, anyway, my Facebook page is where you can always find the link to the live broadcast. It's Wisdom Walk Radio. Also, my Facebook group, Wisdom Walk Community, which you're welcome to join. I have a YouTube channel, Wisdom Walk to Self-Mastery, and so I create a video out of my broadcast every month. And then I also have a website, wisdomwalktoselfmastery.com, where you can also find the book and other things that I try to get out there. Probably not as much as I need to, but more time will allow that. So, we made it. We made it. And so the next step in this journey, if you so choose, is that CCI has created these cohorts. And the first one will be on May 18th. And it's going to be where we look at self-mastery as professional development. They'll be for an hour. A second one, as you see, modeling and influencing change behavior on June 1st, and then June 15th will be compassionate accountability. There will be some home practice for you, and I gave that to Erica so she can flash it into the chat for everyone. And also written email will go out with that. And then on June 29th, so spectacular that you get Racial Bias, Using Our Power to Facilitate Change, featuring Amathini Keefe. She is amazing. The work that she has done with families and children in regards to domestic violence is just mind-blowing to me and so powerful. So mark your calendars. You definitely want to do that. Amathini, are you still here? Could you say something? Did she jump off? I think she might have jumped off. But anyway, just wanted to introduce her, make sure that you saw Amathini because she's amazing. Yes. Well, the links to those cohorts be sent out soon if we signed up. Yes, that's true, right? The links will be sent out.
Yeah, they'll be sent out. And just to clarify, they're really for facilitators only, even though I personally would love to join. We want to really keep that space for you all who are doing the work in community with other people who are doing the work. And so we're really excited to have Jojopahmaria and Jean, all of whom are amazing facilitators, to help guide that process. And Erica did put into the chat, Jojopah, the self-mastery homework.
Wonderful. So even if you can't join the cohort, at least left you a little bit of homework. And yeah, any questions, any final comments? Of course, you can also use the chat. But again, it's been my great pleasure to be on this journey with you today. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your willingness. And thank you so much for the great work that you are doing as a human services professional to make this world a better place. I've enjoyed being with you, and I look forward to those of you who are able to be in the cohort in 2 weeks. Be
Great,
well, be
thank you.
safe now.
Thanks so much, Jojopah.
You're so
Take
welcome.
care, everybody.